Hey, this is Brett and Braiden with Fulcrum Home Loans. This is your weekly update. It's Wednesday, August 10th.
Point number one, inflation numbers. The CPI came out today and it came in lower than we thought. So inflation came in at 8.5% today. They were expecting 8.7.
8.7, yep.
So it was a positive news. Now it's weird that we're celebrating 8.5% inflation. That is definitely not what we want, but it's signaling that we're finally getting it under control. We've stayed flat the last 2 months. If we can do that 1 or 2 months, then keep trending down, that shows very positively, because a lot of this market turmoil that's been created the last 6 to 8 months has all been based on inflation. So we can get that number under check, interest rates will stop going up, markets will settle a little bit, and we should be in a much better spot.
The 8.5% is a measure of inflation, and it's more of a holistic number. It's taking food, energy, transportation, raw materials, a whole number of different categories, and compilating that into one number. And it's a year-over-year number. So it's a 12-month average, if you will, is what the 8.5% is. So because it's a holistic number, if it is trending one way or another, it's a general indication of what's happening in the overall economy.
It's an imperfect number too. I mean, I won't get into this super deep, but CPI, how they get the grocery portion of CPI is they literally send out thousands of people with pen and paper to grocery stores and write down what the price of bread is in their market, and they compile those and get it. I'm surprised there's not a more concrete, we have this much bread flowing in through GDP. It should be a more concrete way to calculate it. It's a fairly rudimentary way of calculating CPI, but they've been doing it the same way
for a long time.
And so eventually those averages all average out, and that's a good number to base off of. But it's not a perfect number, and it's kind of changed over the last 100 years how that's calculated and how it's tracked.
Yeah.
GDP numbers come out, usually quarterly they're out, so we won't get new ones until probably October. But every single month you get a jobs report, you get inflation numbers. You usually get once a month, there's a big reading of stocks, their profit margins. They usually compile on one Friday a month. So there's 4 or 5 big reports every single month that will come out. And then once every other month, roughly, you get the Fed meeting for interest rates. So every month there's more data, and what we're looking for is trends. 1 month can be considered an outlier. We're just looking for trends of inflation lower, trends of stock prices higher, trends of rates coming down, stuff like that. And you've got to grab a couple of months of data to really find those trends.
Yeah, most economists are in agreement that we're probably in a recession right now. Not a bad or a deep recession, but a recession, which is by definition generally 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. That's just where we're at in our economy right now, but it's not a significant recession or issue. It's just, like we talked about earlier, a little bit more of a correction. A lot of clients ask us just what the market is doing right now, and this is point number 2. The market definitely has, especially in Ada and Canyon County, has definitely softened. Prices have come down a little bit. I would say it's probably in correction territory, which is normally around 10% or so. We try to look at things in a positive light, and we think this presents a lot of opportunities for your buyers out there. People out buying, it gives them a lot more flexibility when it comes to making an offer, having more concessions, which were impossible, during the pandemic. So it's, nobody ever likes to see home prices go down, but we think we were probably ripe for a correction, and that this provides a lot of opportunities for buyers going forward. I think the biggest thing to remember is that home prices are still significantly higher than they were a year or even 2 years ago. So yes, it softened a little bit, but is it still a great time? We think it's still a great time. It's taking longer for homes to go under contract. That's normal. We'd say it's actually a normal territory right now, how long it's taking to get a home under contract. Problem is that we're just so used to things moving so quickly, like it was during the pandemic, that it's slowed down a little bit from that, but it's not slow per se.
And I honestly think sellers are getting a little bit desperate in this market at times. And so 6 months, 12 months from now, I think prices will be fairly similar if I was to guess. The only difference is then they'll realize it's the norm. Or right now, you can go ask for a $10,000, $20,000 concession, they'll give it to you because they think the sky is falling. So great opportunity out there. People say the average time that a home should be on the market, the days on market should be between 4 and 6 months. That's considered a healthy real estate market, balance between buyers and sellers. Right now, I haven't seen July's numbers yet. I'm pretty sure we're at 45 days in Ada and Canyon. So we're still technically in a seller's market. My advice is don't panic. I mean, don't put your home on a market and 7 days later ask your realtor to drop it $50,000, $80,000 because it hasn't sold in the first week. Sit there for a month, see what kind of the feedback you're getting, ask people that are going through the home what they thought of the home and what they think it should be priced at. But don't panic, be okay with it being on the market for 30, 60 days. You'll find the right buyer, and we just got to get used to the new norm. The third point is the September rate hike. So these rate hikes happen every 2-3 months, depending on when the Fed meets. September is our next rate hike. Up until today, everyone thought there was going to be a 75 to 100 basis point hike is kind of the numbers that have been thrown around. But after our inflation numbers today, the betting odds, there's actual Vegas odds on this, is now 50 basis points. So we've hiked 75 basis points the last 2 times. If we go to 50 basis points, this could be kind of foreshadowing that the end of these rate hikes could be in the future. It's not just going to keep going in perpetuity. Rates eventually will settle down. We'll stop seeing these rate hikes, and that'd be great for, everything. Cars, credit cards, mortgages, HELOCs, everything would spur the economy a little bit. So we'll see what they do in September, but it's looking more and more like we won't see another 75 basis point hike.
Yep, and contrary to a popular belief, those hikes do not directly impact long-term mortgage rates like a 30-year fixed or a 15-year fixed. And in fact, sometimes when the Fed increases those rates, it can cause long-term rates to come down because it's a sign that they're battling inflation and whatnot. So positive stuff, moving forward. Okay, this has been Brett and Braiden with Fulcrum Home Loans, and this is your market update.